Sylvester Stallone punched Stephen King square in the face.
What are you doing?
I'm creating a unique voice.
Integrated producer at an ad agency by day and writer of commercial mainstream and science fiction by night, bringing you all the marketing and writing advice you need as we take on the writer's conquest together. Today we're looking at voice. Now we're not talking about the unique voice I just so eloquently put together. We're actually talking about your author voice. It's the voice that comes through your written words and onto the page and creates the experience for your reader that is going to be unique to you and your books. When people open your book, what is the experience they're going to gather? I hope to create a very unique experience through my voice and my books, and I hope it translates well time after time. Because by doing so, that's how you create loyal readers. They're going to come back time and time again with each book that you write. And your voice may create different experiences. When people open your book, they may just get a nice, cozy, warm, fuzzy feeling. Or they may be on edge because at any moment, a main character could just be flat out killed. Obviously we're talking about George R.R. Martin with the Game of Thrones series. At any point you know that basically there's a possibility your main character is going to have their head lobbed off or burned to death, etc., what have you. I think another huge identifier and example in author voice is Chuck Palahniuk. You open a book of Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club and Damned as well, you're gonna gain a very unique experience in terms of the way he writes, and you can find those books have a little bit of a common thread in the way he writes. The narratives are all very different, there's different twists and plots and characters, but when you start reading a Chuck Palahniuk novel, you know it's written by him.
Hey Thomas,
Yeah, Lazy Tom, what can I do for you?
is this a unique voice?
Is your author voice going to kidnap my child? And one of the major aspects of author voice is defining what that voice is going to be. Are there characters that are going to be speaking almost as variations of yourself? And if so, what are they trying to convey? What are they trying to say to the reader? And more importantly, are there characters that are just mild, tiny reflections of yourself and then embellished in other ways, so that way you can create a completely unique character or great villain that is justified in their actions? And that goes into defining your author voice, so that way people will understand and develop that relationship with you. And yes, I am saying relationship. I don't mean it, of course, in a romantic way. What I mean is just creating those loyal readers that are going to be happy to come back time and time again. But in author voice, there's also taking risks, and that's where I go into more of the aspect of defining characters that might step a little bit away, but there's still the narrative thread that keeps everything together. And that's where you get the chance to create unique villains, unique narratives, unique stories that all kind of come together and allow you to take risks. And that's where you can find common elements that maybe certain characters will relate to you, the author. Just be careful that you don't take such risks that it becomes unidentifiable as you. In other words, and in those cases, maybe you want to create a second pen name, and that will allow you to kind of step freely away from the norm that you have as your current authorship.
You told me to develop a unique voice, so here's Thomas A. Fowler, Lazy Tom at number 39 with You're Never Gonna Sell a Thing.
Well, it sounds like a Chipmunk and Johnny Five got together to have a baby, so I would say it is a unique voice, but not in a good way. Now, one thing you want to be careful with is don't get so familiar that it becomes boring and mundane to read your books. You need to make sure that you do take some risks. One great element to do that is to look at elements of characters. And they could be even reflections of yourself, but they could be different parts of you. And maybe those different parts are in conflict with one another. And by doing so, your characters will create tension, create conflict, and that will prove to create an incredible manuscript, because Lord knows nothing is more boring than a bunch of characters in a room all agreeing with each other. What is the experience that your reader aims to gain when they pick up one of your books? You also have to make sure that it is appropriate for your purpose and your audience, in the sense that if you're writing YA, make sure that your language and your voice is suitable for YA audiences, and also in terms of purpose. If the purpose is for an inspiring tale, you need to make sure that the voice that you have is conducive to that, so that way when they're going through hardships, your reader is still given that inkling that things may end up turning out okay. And also, when I say audience, nothing bothers me more than when people disrespect the time frames that they're dealing with. When they suddenly just insert modern slang into old world fantasy, and the dialogue just seems to come out of left field. You have to make sure that you respect the research and respect the process of writing and create purpose and audience content friendly voice. And you define it that way, so that way you can have that consistency, and you'll always be able to go back to that when in doubt. You'll know what your rules are, you'll know how to define your voice, and therefore you'll know what you're aiming to accomplish with each and every page of every manuscript you write.
I ask you, Thomas A. Fowler, will you join the crusade of failing writers?
At what point is your author voice trying to instigate a revolution? And the most important thing in creating your author voice is to make sure that you write what you love. Because it's a repeated point that I've said time and time again, but there is a reason. Nothing sticks out more like a writer who is trying to just simply cater to a trend, or is doing something merely for the sake of earning money. It has to be something that you love. Now, that doesn't mean you can't step out of your comfort zone. For example, the first short story I got published was steampunk. I, up until that point, wasn't too familiar with steampunk. I couldn't call myself a fan. But what I did is I did the research, I looked at what was being done, and I looked at some elements that could fit into steampunk, and I created a story that was able to fit in the steampunk world, but still had my voice within it in this really big elaborate action sequence. At least that's what I tried to construct. You can let me know if I did so. So that's the key, is that even if you step out of your comfort zone, that's okay. If it still fits within the context of your author voice, then you're going to be creating content that is important. You're going to be creating content that still works. And it's within your author voice, and people can still expect that to be something that you create. And that will allow you to define your voice, take some risks, but more importantly, create an experience for your readers that they're going to want to come back to time and time again.
Thomas A. Fowler defining his author voice as idiot.
Is your author voice attempting to assimilate the entire human race? Because if so, great job. So look into a genre where you can take some risks but still have your author voice defined, and have elements that are comfortable, but elements that take risks. And by doing so, you're going to be able to learn, grow, and improve. Hope this is helpful. If you have anything else that you want me to follow up on in the blog as I elaborate on this topic, solid, definitely let me know. I'm always happy to help out. You can find me on Twitter at Thomas A. Fowler. Use the hashtag WritersConquest. Always head to www.thomasafowler.com for all the updates on what's happening in latest and greatest. And be sure to kick some ass. Be proud of what you do. Would you knock it off? Hey, you know what? Why don't you knock this off, get a job, and actually do something that contributes to this?
We are trying to do things here that will change the way people work. I have a job. It's being recruited character because you are blind and dumb as hell. You know what? I think this is all good, but you need to give me the microphone. Well, I hate you so much because you shut